Hey YouTube, how you guys doing today? Kevin here, coming back at you with another video. So today we're going to be talking about rotary valves. Yes, rotary valves. I tell you guys this because I know a lot of you guys like to do a premix on your KE100s, your KD80s, your KD100s, your MC1s, all those rotary valve engines. But what you're doing is you're damaging your engine. Now, I did a video showing you how to disconnect it so the cables don't bind up and everything else, because these bikes are becoming harder and harder and harder to find. So, but I also said in that video that it is a very bad idea to do that. And I didn't have any proof to show you guys, and I always like to back up what I tell you guys. So, 30 years experience, guys. I know what I'm talking about. And a lot of you guys, well, you can premix it on the KX100. Well, that's a completely different designed engine. Okay, that uses reed valves. Reed valves are different than a rotary valve, but they have a couple things in common. So anyway, we're gonna talk about that right now. So I'm using my Climber magazine manual, and this is the part number. This is the part number right here. You can get this manual on eBay, Amazon, or directly from Climber. This is the, let me shrink you guys down so you can see the whole thing. Okay, this is my Climber manual, and this right here covers 80 cc's to 350 cc rotary valve engines from 1966 to 2001. This manual has all your engine specifications in it, and it is a very thorough manual. Now, I have the Haynes as well. The Haynes is a great quick reference guide, but this has way more information in it. So I wanted to show you guys this picture right here. So we're going to focus in on this picture. So here you have the carburetor right here, and then it shows you the oil pump off the gear. You know, of course I have to put it this way, but the oil travels up this tube through the injector and comes in. Now the injector is that little orifice right there. That's what sprays. But you notice it's in the direction of the rotary valve, okay, housing. See, a rotary valve is on here like this, and when it rotates, now the oil is going into the engine with the fuel that's coming through the intake port, and then it stops. But now listen, here's what you guys got to understand. When this valve shuts off the intake, it's stopping the fuel, but there's still pumping oil. So this right here is going to have a film of oil around it. Okay, even when the intake is closed. So when the intake is closed, this is still pumping oil and is making a film of oil. Now, I don't know if you guys can see it not very well, but you can see the discoloration on this rotary valve. This came out of my KM100 because my KM100 actually was, what do you call it there, ran Premix. And turns out, when I've been trying to diagnose the hesitation, it turns out that this right here was a very significant clue. They ran when they thought the oil pump, see, here's what happened with the bike, okay? I got all the nitty gritty on the bike. So, on the bike, on this bike, remember I've been having oiler problems? That is because the oiler was worn out. And what happened was, it was over oiling. So what the gentleman did with this bike, before he pulled it all apart and threw it in baskets, he did a premix. So he let the oil reservoir run out. He didn't put any oil in it. Then what he did was he premixed the oil in the tank, and then ran the engine like that until he started having problems and issues with the bike, which is what I'm having today. So I got the bike from him. I got the whole bike all together. Got the thing running sweet. But it's always had this little noise in the engine, and I thought it was the rotary valve. So I pull it apart, and I'm having a lack of power right now. Lack of power. So I've been going through the whole thing, cleaned out the exhaust, checked the carburetor. I got a CDI ignition in it, and this thing is still just giving me all kinds of problems with the bike. Turns out that when you run a premix on these, you actually can damage your crank bearings. I've got bad crank bearings in this motor. This engine's going to need to be rebuilt. It's going to have to come off and be split. So let me explain to you guys all that. So there are passageways that the oil, see all this heavy black right here, that is your oil film, okay, on your rotary valve. When that thing is, even when the intake is closed, there is still a thin film of oil which lubricates this right here. When this right here doesn't get the lubrication, it wears it thin. And also, it starves the crank bearing on the left side of the motor for oil. So that is why it's very important to do your auto lube. I'm going to show you that once again. You can see right here's another picture of it. Like you can see the how it's filled. Injector lube system. See how right here? That's a ball bearing, and then it comes up through. When you don't have your auto lube hooked up, that all stops for oil. Now the only oil you have going in is, see those little arrows right there? That's your fuel and air mixture. That's the stream of oil. So you have your fuel and oil coming through your intake, and all this doesn't get lubricated, and this whole side right here doesn't get lubricated, and that's when you end up with engine damage. So that's what this video is about. It's about to show you guys engine damage. So now, this week, we're going to pull this engine off this bike and tear it down and find out what is going on with it, because it is making a ching 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 sound in the motor, and it sounds like it's coming from the crankcase area. So we're going to do that. I might just switch the engine over. I have another engine I could throw on it. I've got a few of them. I might just throw one of those on there and check out the top end, redo the gaskets, and throw that in to make this bike happy. However, I do want to find out what's going on with this engine. So we're going to pull this thing apart. I have a crank. I've got plenty of them. I've got plenty of crank bearings that are good, and we're going to go ahead and do this engine. But I literally want to make sure that this thing, we're going to go through the whole thing. We're going to go through the back tire to the front tire. This bike needs some love. This bike right here, I've been riding daily. Been taking it back and forth to work. And look at this, guys. A lot of you guys wanted to go for a ride with me. So I got this cool little bracket here, so I can put my camera on there, and we'll be doing some rides on this bike. So that's the plan. Take you guys probably to work with me one day during the week. I'll take you for a ride, and we'll do a nice walk around. I'll talk you through the whole bike, and we'll do a whole big thing on this bike. And then we got to do some videos, and we'll show you guys how to bring back the plastics. I did one on a red fender, and we're going to show you how to do it on the green. So we got some stuff coming up. But this bike right here is really kind of a sad story for me. I enjoy the heck out of this bike. I've ridden it back and forth to work. Top speed on it right now, because of its loss of power, is about 35, almost 40 miles an hour. And I know this bike is capable of about 50, 55. And this bike right here, with the big sprocket on the back, remember I put that big one on there? I got a 50 in the back, and I got a 16 in the front. And this bike right here does have some speed to it, even with that combination. I can get it right up to about 55 on this with that gear. With the regular 40, I'm right about 60. So we're gonna be we're gonna take this thing for a spin, not tonight, but during the week, and probably take you guys to work with me or something. We'll figure it out. But yep, so that's where I'm at. And what destroyed this engine was premix, and that's why I wanted to do this video, to show you guys that premixing a KE, a KD, a KM, an MC, anything with a rotary valve, it could be a 350 bighorn, it's just a bad idea. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This bike was designed and built with auto lube, and auto lube is a great unit. When it does go, it over oils. Smoke just pours out. I'd rather have an engine over oil than under oil any day of the week. So if that's my problem, I'll deal with it, you know what I mean? But because this thing was gone through premix, it did destroy the engine. Now I've always, since I've gotten this bike, I've always ran the auto lube, and now it's just worn out. Now the oiler works great. I put a new oiler in it. I have it all hooked up. It's all bled out. It all works great. However, the engine's been through so much hell, it actually ruined it. So that's where I'm at with this bike. Kind of sad, but we're gonna fix it. We'll go through the whole thing, pull the engine off, and I'll show you guys the power plant I'm going to use on it tomorrow when I get later on in the evening. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to do a quick video and show you guys well, what happened with that. And when I pulled the motor apart, I'm going to show you guys. See that discoloration? That's the color of the bearings too. So the whole crank and bearing assembly looks that varnish color, that tarnish color. And you can see that the special coating, see how it's nice and shiny over here, and you can see the wear marks on it. That is all worn off. That's not rust. That is literally the finish, the chrome finish, the bearing surface wearing off of it. So that's what you're looking at right there. So when you see that gold color, that's not rust or corrosion. That literally is the bearing surface wearing off of it. And I have that on my bearings, and I have it on the crank, and that is why the engine is making the noises that it's making. And no matter how much oil I put to it, even when I turn up the oil, it's not going to fix it, because the damage is already done. Once the damage is done, you can never put it back on. Now, I did replace the rotary valve with another used one that was in excellent condition, and I showed you guys how to check the thicknesses of them and how to tell if they're good or bad. But you can tell by this one that the bearing surface is worn off, and I have that same problem with the bearings. So with that said, we now have to pull the engine apart and fix the crank area. So that's where we're at with this one, and hopefully we can get that done relatively soon, because I really want to ride my bike. And the nice thing about this one right here is we can put a KE 100 crank right in this thing. Even though this is a KM, I can put a crank in here from a KE. So I think that's probably what we're going to do. I have a crank. I'll put it in. I'll probably pull it out of the junk motor during lunchtime on my break, and then do it that way. So that's where I'm at with that. Anyway, guys, so we're going to be doing a crank to this motor. So a lot of fun. So anyway, guys, you guys have yourselves a good night, and I will be talking to you guys later. And thank you for all your subscriptions and all your comments. You guys have been great. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, and we're just going to keep busting them out. So I'll talk to you guys later, and have a good night.